Dear beloved Thai, dear friends, I know you're still there and I'm very happy. Today I'd like to share with you a little bit of the reflection that I have on addiction. Recently there was a beautiful young woman who came to Deer Park Monastery on a day of mindfulness. And she approached me and thanked me for my book, Healing, Journey from Doctor to Nun. And after some exchanges, I hugged her. And I could feel that her body was trembling from deep inside. And I felt right away that this is somebody who's going through trauma. So I invited her to walk with me, and then we sat down to talk with each other for a while. So I learned from her that she's going through a rehabilitation program. And she told me that in the library where she's staying at for the rehab, she found my book, and so she checked it out and she was reading it, and she felt comforted and helped by it. So I was very moved to know that there are programs out there who use Dharma Talks, our Dharma Talks on YouTube, who use our books written by our beloved teacher, Zen Master Thich Nhat Hanh, and also by our monastic brothers and sisters in the Plum Village community. She said to me that she was very grateful to be able to share with me about her journey, because addiction has such a stigma that she rarely ever shared with people. So it was quite a comfort for her to be able to speak with me so openly about her addiction. I see addiction is only really the tip, the branch of a tree. Often we're caught in the stigma of addiction, the ones who are addicted and also the society. We see that as the main problem. But really, when we look deeply, we will see that addiction is only a manifestation of a deeper, more rooted problem, suffering, trauma that a person has gone through, either in childhood or in teenage years, during teenage years, or later in life. So when we go through a crisis, we, just for survival, we find ways to cope with it. So the coping mechanism that as humans we naturally have is to either to fight, try to fight the situation, or to run away from the situation, or if we feel trapped, there's no way out, then the nervous system automatically shuts down and we go through a freeze response, or frozen from within, or the mind takes off so that it doesn't have to witness the suffering, the pain of the body. And then, of course, depending on the environment that we may be in, when we're suffering and we want to find an escape, if we have family members or friends, or we watch on television, we see some role models, and if they use drugs, they use pornography, they use alcohol, work, sex, etc., to escape their troubles, then we may also learn that way. I've known people as children, as young teenagers, who used pornography to numb, to escape the problems in their families. So whichever coping mechanism that we may employ during the initial stage of the suffering, it may become a habit, even though we are no longer going through that crisis or that trauma. But the coping mechanism has become a habit. We are trapped in it. We have rehearsed it for so long. So a person who is addicted to sex, to pornography, to drugs, to alcohol, to work, to entertainment, to games, etc., etc., what was originally an escape, something that actually helped us to survive or to not have to confront the situation that was too much for us to understand or to handle. Now it has become a crutch. Now that we have grown up, but we are trapped. The wounded child in us are trapped in this body and is trapped with this coping mechanism that is now causes us a lot of suffering. I think it's important to see addiction in this light so that we can remove some of the stigma, the shame, the guilt, the helplessness, the blame on those who are addicted. If we look deeply, all of us, we have used some coping mechanisms or others. Some are more helpful, beneficial, or less destructive, or more subtle. But we have employed different coping mechanisms. And so we see it in that way. We gain understanding and compassion for ourselves and for each other. And we also gain a hope to be able to transform the addiction. So instead of focusing on the tip of a branch, we look more deeply into the roots of the problem, such as the trauma, the suffering. So in our practice, we learn to calm our mind, to calm our body. And this young woman was sharing with me that she was listening to many YouTubes from our monastic brothers and sisters and from our teacher. And she's been learning about mindful breathing. And she has been practicing that. So mindful breathing can help us to come back to our body. Maybe it's not easy for some of us to come back to our breathing because we have been so alienated from our own body. And the breathing has become so short and suffocating for us to be aware of. So if that's the case, we can also learn to come back and be aware of our hands, for example. So instead of focusing on the breath, we focus on our hands. As we breathe in, we see that the hands close. We breathe out, the hands are open. And actually there's a natural movement, a very slight movement of the hands, but they actually move like this when we breathe in, and they move like this when we breathe out, naturally. But we can exaggerate that movement just to be aware of the movement of our hands. Or we can put our hands on our lap. And then as we breathe in, we raise the hand, and as we breathe out, we put down the hand on our lap. I also learned to do this. Breathe in, breathe out, like a little flower bud. In breath, out breath. In breath, out breath. In breath, out breath. So as we learn to come back to the body, which we have neglected, deserted, or hurt for so long, we have hurt it, abused it for so long. Now, slowly we come back to befriend it. Breathing in, I befriend my breath, my in-breath. Or breathing in, I befriend my hands. I befriend my lungs, my heart. I befriend my body. And breathing out, I smile to my body. I smile to my out-breath. I smile to myself. It's important to learn to befriend ourselves in place of harsh speech, condemning speech. Now we learn to just gently saying hello to our body, saying hello to parts of our body, to our breath. Addiction is not just about the drugs, the object of our addiction. It entails so much of an image that has become us. I'm an addict. I'm all messed up. My life is ruined. Families and friends are frustrated. Maybe they have walked away from us. Maybe we have lost our job. We've lost our marriage. We've lost our career. We've lost trust in ourselves, in our own capacity to take care of ourselves, to take care of difficulties in our lives. And so it's a great burden. And of course, as we use drugs or alcohol or pornography, etc., the physical illness also has begun to appear in our lives, in our body. So we may have many withdrawal symptoms. We may develop anxiety and depression. So we face many problems all at once, and it can be so overwhelming. The tolerance, the sensitization to the objects of our addiction cause us a lot of suffering. I want to talk a little bit about that. So let's say in the beginning, our feelings, our sense of well-being or ill-being starts, let's say, at level 5. We feel at just level 5. And by trying out that drug or the alcohol or the pornography, etc., we may feel our mood picked up to a level 7 or 8, which is a great feeling. And we like that. And we hope to come back to that level 7, 8, or even 9 again. But very soon, to do that same amount of drug doesn't get us to level 8 anymore, but only to level 7. And slowly 6. And slowly 5. So that's when we begin to develop tolerance. So we have to do more. The dose is bigger. We do more of that just to get to level 7 now, just to get to level 6. And now without the drugs, we don't feel at level 5 like before we do the drugs. But we may feel only at the level 4 or 3 or 2. We feel sick. So now we do drugs not because we enjoy it, not because it gives us a great feeling, but because we do it so that we don't feel so sick. We don't feel so bad. It's this excruciating discomfort and pain in our body and mind. And so we seek the drug just to feel okay. So that's right there is something that many of us may not think of, especially if we don't have that particular addiction to that particular drug. We may think people just want to feel good. That's why they do drugs. No, they just want to feel normal, to feel tolerable. That's tolerance that we develop. The brain has gotten used to it, so it doesn't respond to it anymore. It needs a stronger dose. And at the same time, the brain develops a sensitization. It means that even if we try just a little bit, it induces a stronger craving than before. So now, as the addiction becomes stronger, it needs less of the drug, less of the stimulation of the images and sounds, for us to feel this extreme craving that we need to seek that object of addiction in order to calm ourselves down. So we do it out of craving, out of discomfort, not because we enjoy it anymore. And many of us, we also suffer from denial. It takes a long time for a person with a mental illness to recognize and to accept that they have a mental illness. That's why the mental illness becomes worse, because we don't acknowledge it, we don't accept it. So we try to do drugs. That's also another situation when we have an illness, when we a physical problem, a physical pain, and we cannot deal with it. So we seek a drug, even a pharmaceutical drug, to suppress that pain. And so then we become addicted to it. But we So to acknowledge that we have an addiction to a drug or something, it's also it's very difficult for us because we feel justified or we want to justify our actions, and that makes it even more difficult for us to seek help or to try to find ways, a way out of the problem, because we go through denial. Every type of addiction, it takes place because it changes our brain. When I was in medical school, neuroplasticity was not spoken very much about. But the last 20 years or so, the scientific community has begun to talk more about neuroplasticity, which to me, the Buddha had always known all along, 2,600 years ago. And that's why a Buddhist practice, the Buddha's teachings is all about taking care of the mind, taking care of our thoughts, speech, and bodily actions. And even the Buddha said, there's one thing that if left uncultivated, it will bring a lot of suffering and misery. What is that one thing? It's the mind. And the Buddha also said that there's one thing that if it is well cultivated, then it will bring a lot of happiness. What is that one thing? It's our mind. It's our mind, our capacity to be there for what is, to recognize what is, and to take good care of it. And that brings me to the, in the Alcoholic Anonymous, in that program, they have this, they have what is called 12-step program. And one day it came to me that actually we, as Buddhist practitioners, we also go through the 12-step program. And that includes 4 Noble Truths and the eightfold path. When we add them together, that's a 12-step program for all of us. For the 4 Noble Truths, the first Noble Truth is that there is suffering. It is important that we learn to acknowledge that we are going through a difficulty. We are going through a traumatic event. To acknowledge that there's suffering is already liberating. And most of us in our society, we don't practice this. We try to suppress it. We try to find something to cover it up. We don't want to acknowledge that there's suffering. What is so noble about suffering that the Buddha called noble truth of suffering is only noble because we recognize it. That's the first step. It's a stepping stone. And the second noble truth is that we recognize that there are causes of suffering. Just like I was sharing about, the root cause of addiction, and not just the tip, the branch of it, but there's root cause. So we look deeply into the causes at different stages in our lives, in our family situation, in our social situation, in the stage of the world. All of those factors play in a life of a human being because we we are interconnected to all that stuff. So looking into the causes of our suffering is very important, and to recognize them. And not only to see the causes of our suffering, but as we practice more deeply, we also look into the causes of suffering in those who cause us suffering. And we recognize that the perpetrators of our suffering were themselves also victims. Not so long ago, I gave consultation to this woman, and she came with some other questions, as she told me later. But we sat for a little bit, and she started, hesitantly, I could tell in her body, she wanted to share something much deeper than the questions that she had in mind. And then she looked at me and she asked me, she said to me, when I was 5 years old, I was pinned down by five boys. How do I live with that? And as she started to tell me what happened, her body started to shake. And I put my hand on her knee, and her body was tremoring so more and more violently. And at that moment, I realized this is real. She's going through the experience. So I told her, you don't need to talk. Just breathe. And I hugged her. And her whole body started to tremor. I started with her hands, and then her knees, and then her whole body. And I told her, let's sit on the floor. And so I helped her to sit on the floor. And I held her in my arms, and she was in a crouching position of a child, literally of a child. She was crouching like this, and I was holding her from the back, and I just rocked her back and forth. I just rocked her. She became a child, a 5-year-old girl right in front of me, and I just rocked her and just held her very tight. In that moment, something in me told me that's what she needed. Just deep, strong pressure, embrace, and just be there for her. And she shook for a very, very long time. And then slowly, her body trembled less and less. And she said to me, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So she was just whispering these words. And I was still holding her and still rocking her body. And I told her, thank you. Thank you for surviving all these years. Thank you for having made all these efforts in your life. she thanked me. Now that I think about it, I'm not sure if she was the one who thanked me or the little child in her thanked me. But I was definitely thanking her inner child for having tried so hard, for surviving, for doing extraordinary things in her life, despite all that pain and shame and guilt and sadness that she's carried all her life. She even said, I was following the boys, but I was just a little kid. I didn't know. So in our sharing, I also said to her, for those young teenage boys to have done that to you, they must have seen that somewhere. And so they imitated that violence on you, upon you. So they too were victims. For the young boys to have done that to a little 5-year-old girl, their lives would never be the same anymore. Their thoughts, their speech, and their bodily actions are forever changed. Their lives could never be truly happy anymore. So as we look deeply into the causes of our suffering, we also learn to look deeply into the causes of suffering in those who have done harm to us. And that is the second noble truth. And it helps us to see that there is a way out, that suffering can be transformed and healed. And that's the third noble truth. And the fourth noble truth is that there is a specific way out. And that's the noble eightfold path. Suffering can be transformed. Happiness can be cultivated with right mindfulness. We are all aware of things, but sometimes that's wrong mindfulness when we focus on only pornographic images, on the drugs, on certain situations. We're zoomed in that, but that's unbeneficial mindfulness. So we learn to bring right mindfulness into our awareness, what we look at, what we hear, what we smell, what we take into our body through our mouths, through our body, through our thoughts. Right mindfulness brings right concentration. We focus on the positivity, on what's still there in our lives. Those who are still with us, still try to help us. The conditions of happiness that are still there. For the young women that I see, their bodies, thankfully, are still healthy. They still have enough good health. They're still young enough to transform. Their brain is incredibly capable of change. The addiction changes our brain. And as we practice, we also change our brain. Neuroplasticity means that the brain is malleable, is changeable, not just in our childhood, but throughout our whole entire life. The brain can always change. And that is why we are able, everybody now know how to use the iPhone, the computer. Even if that person is in their 70s or 80s, the person can still learn. It's because you have that interest. You put that effort, that concentration on it. That's why you learn a new skills. And so that proves that all of us can change our mind. Instead of having developed all of these neural networks that are associated with certain habits, addiction, certain people and environment, now we can also develop new neural networks. That's called mindful neural networks. We need to choose an environment that is more positive. If it's necessary that we move to another place, another apartment, another neighborhood, another state. Sometimes people even move to a different country. We move out of a different circle of friends, certain kind of work. We need a different environment that helps us to develop new habits and to wean off the old habits, the old associations, triggering factors. And so right mindfulness, right concentration will lead to right view about interbeing. The victim is in the perpetrator, and the perpetrator has become a victim. And we ourselves have been victims, and also we have been perpetrators of our own suffering and of the suffering of others as well. And so in that way, we don't always take a stance of a victim, but we are more proactive. We feel more responsible for our own lives and each other's lives. And that helps us to put more positive effort into change, believing in our capacity to heal and transform. Right view will help us to have right thinking in our daily life. People can go through a rehabilitation program 1 time, 2 times, or many times, and it may not be successful. And so as one musters enough courage to try it again, one is burdened with the thought, I failed before. Now what's different? So that's important, that we find a different environment. We get more help, and also neuroplasticity takes place. The most important factor that helps us to change our brain, to change our mind, is through thoughts, through positive, right thinking, positive, right views. We think all the time, but if we can simply recognize that thought as beneficial or unbeneficial, and we learn to change it, we breathe in and breathe out and smile with that negative thought, and to change it into something positive. I love you. I'm here for you. Let us give each other another chance. We tell that to ourselves. Instead of looking at our body and feeling shame, we say, thank you. Thank you for being there, for being so resilient and forgiving. Help me to love you. Help me to take good care of you. So the right view and right thinking are the most determining factors to our transformation and healing, most effective way of healing ourselves. And then that will lead to right speech, the right speech towards ourselves and to others, right bodily actions. We learn to nurture our body more. I taught that young woman who came for a day of mindfulness to massage her face, to hold her own hands, to hug herself. And her body was also tremoring very mildly. So I asked her, do you know that your body is tremoring. Do you know why? And she said, it's my anxiety. That made me think of the woman who went through this trauma as a 5-year-old girl, and how I held her. How? And I thought, can we do that for each other too? When somebody goes through withdrawal, let's say from a drug addiction, and our bodies also tremor like that. Can we hug ourselves and rock ourselves and speak lovingly to ourselves? Can we do that for a loved one, for a friend, for somebody when that person is going through withdrawal and tremoring all over like that? Because that physical tremor, but that is also psychological tremor. All the suffering is arising up. The mental pain along with the physical pain. Can we do that for ourselves and for each other? Because this woman, whom I held very tightly and rocked her body, the next day she told me, thank you. I feel that my inner child just bursted out of me. My inner child wanted to be seen and to be held by you, because I myself didn't know how to do that for her all these years. I didn't know how. And she was grateful that I showed her how to hold her own wounded child, so that when it happens again, if it happens again, she will know how. And she feels so much more connected to herself, to her inner child, so much lighter. That's transformation at the base. It's very deep healing. Animals, when they are chased, when they escape death, they shake violently. The birds, they shake. I've seen a bird run into a window and fall down, and it gets up, it shakes for a long while, and then it flies away. I've seen other animals here. They shake after they escaped a snake or something. Human beings, we also tremor and shake after a car accident, or after we just fall, or something that startled us. Unfortunately, we don't really allow our whole body to go through that whole process. We get up and we try to move on, look around if anybody saw that we fell. Somebody just escaped from drowning. And when he was rescued, he told me he lay down for a few minutes, and then he got up and he drove his car, picked up his son, and the next day he went to another state for his work. His body never had a chance to shake out all of that nervous, frightful energy. It never completed that tremoring process. And so he got really sick. For 2 weeks he couldn't get over a cold, even though he was a very healthy young man. Many of us, we continue to suffer because one situation after another, we don't allow ourselves the time and space to process that trauma, that incident, physically, emotionally, psychologically. and it's held in here, the body becomes to shake from deep within. Sometimes I hug a person, usually it's a young woman or an older woman. When I hug her, I would feel this tremor deep in the core. The person is not aware, but I can feel it coming out from deep within. Mild tremor, but it was definitely there. And that's trauma held deep within every cell of our body. So to be aware of the Four Noble Truths and to practice the Eightfold Noble Paths. Right mindfulness, right view, right mindfulness, right concentration, right view, right thinking, right speech, right bodily actions, right livelihood. Find a work that is meaningful, that is helpful to us, to get less of a pay but have more time to take care of ourselves, of our loved ones. That gives us meaning, that we are helping others, helping Mother Earth, right livelihood and right diligence. Eightfold Noble Path, right diligence. It's very important for all of us. We have 4 kinds of diligence. The first 2 kinds of diligence deal with the positive seeds in us. When we suffer, when we have an addiction, we only see the negativity of our situation, only see negativity in ourselves. But we all have very positive seeds. Seeds of joy, of love, of understanding, of kindness, of generosity, of wishing well for ourselves and others. So we need to water those good seeds in us, however tiny they are as a sprout. We need to recognize them, identify them, and water them, and invite them to stay longer in our consciousness. If you see your inner child through a way of thinking or a way of speaking or behaving, you say hello to her. Hello, I know you are there. Thank you. Help me to take good care of you. You invite your inner child to be there a little longer, to bring her up and to keep her there, to keep him there a little while, to get to know each other, to water the good seeds, the gratitude for our inner child. And the other 2 practices of diligence deal with the negative seeds, seeds of self-doubt, of shame, of guilt, of blame, of sadness. We learn not to water them, to acknowledge them, and then to bring them back down, not to rehearse them with sights, sounds, music, conversation, thoughts that only make ourselves more negative. And not to bring them up through movies, images, thoughts, not to trigger them. Recognize them when they are there, breathe, relax the whole body, and let them calm down. And then we can look into them and understand them more. So that's the Buddhist 12-step practice right there that we can all do with any kind of addiction that we may recognize in ourselves. And that will help us to build trust and confidence in ourselves. Most of us, however successful or broken we are, we never feel that we are enough. We're not good enough. We're not enough. But when we practice mindful breathing, mindful walking, loving speech, and deep listening to ourselves, to our suffering, to our trouble. Slowly, we gain trust and confidence that we are able to be there for ourselves. Through the thick and the thin, we can listen to ourselves. We can understand ourselves. We can care for ourselves concretely. So we regain that trust and confidence that we had lost, or we might have never had for ourselves. And also, through our daily spiritual practice, we also become safer to ourselves. The nervous system is always scanning the environment. It's always asking, am I safe? Am I okay? But in my practice, I've discovered that actually my environment in general is very safe. Of course, in a monastery, it's a very safe place. But even when I go out to the airport, to this country or that country, the shopping mall, all those places, actually, the environment generally is quite safe, thankfully. But it's my negative thoughts that make me unsafe to myself and others. My negative views, full of discrimination and preferences, full of blame, of prejudice, that makes me unsafe to myself and others. My negative speech, harsh, unkind, towards myself and others, that makes it unsafe for me and for others. Or my bodily actions. Sometimes we get so frustrated, we hit ourselves. We cut our own wrist. We scratch our face from stress, from nervous energy. We hurt ourselves. We make ourselves unsafe to ourselves. And so when we practice the Eightfold Noble Path, the loving speech, the deep listening, the kind embrace, we become safe and trustworthy to ourselves. And that is a deep, deep happiness. We become our own soulmate. One who remembers, who knows, who takes good care of, who masters oneself. That's the definition for soulmate in Vietnamese. Tri kỷ, to remember, to know, to take good care of, to master. Kỷ, oneself. So my dear ones, be a soulmate to the addiction that you may be having. Okay, get to know it. Say hello to it. It's been a friend too. It suffers along with you too. Be kind to it. Learn from it. Ask help from that addiction, that drug, that modality that you've been using. I know you've helped me at some point, but now we can find a different way. Help me to heal. Help me to fully realize my potential, to live a meaningful life. This young woman shared with me, she really wants to heal, to do it right this time. Her parents are growing old. Her young sister, she really wants to be a good role model for her young sister. She's young herself. She wants to do good in the world. These are all the right motivation. Remind yourself of your aspirations and motivations. Remind yourself of all the positive conditions that are still there in your life. And give yourself a chance again and again and again. Because, my dear ones, we all deserve it. We all deserve mercy. We all deserve compassion. We all deserve understanding. And thus, we all deserve transformation and healing.
Beautiful, sister. I have one question. My father was a baker, but he also was drinking. We call it, he was an alcoholic, as you say. It's like a stigma. Of course, he was much more, but that's what we saw, and that was what he was. What would you say to... I was 8 years old when my father had to leave the house. My mother couldn't take it anymore. She had 5 boys, 5 kids. I was the middle one. At that time, at the age of 5 or 6 or 7 or 8, I didn't have the means, the skills to help my father. What would you say to people surrounding people with strong addictions in whatever field? How to perceive them, approach them, and help them?
When we are trapped in an addiction, we become unsafe to ourselves, and often we become unsafe to others. And so for those of us who are alcoholics, addicted to alcohol or drugs or pornography, sex, etc., our children, the young people around us in the family, they also witness that. Our spouses may suffer a lot. And more often than not, the children, they also inherit our addiction. There's a small factor of genetics. Some of us do have an addictive personality. It's easier for us to get addicted to certain things. But most of us, I believe, use the drugs or the alcohol, etc., more as a coping mechanism, and then we develop tolerance and addiction to it. So how can we help somebody who's in our family who has such severe addiction? I think it's important as an adult in that situation, we try to protect ourselves and also to protect the children, so that the children don't have to suffer right there and then also for the rest of their lives. Sometimes we ourselves are also in denial. We don't want to talk to the person who has the addiction out of anger or shame or denial. We don't want to talk about it. Or when we talk about it, we fight and we scream and yell and blame. And so that really doesn't help or solve the problem. If we can get help from our community, from friends, to see the bigger picture, to offer this person help, counseling, guidance, support groups, etc., we can go through the process in a more gentle, constructive way. And really the one who has the addiction already suffers a lot. So if we can use loving speech and deep listening, it can be very supportive. It may give that person hope and inspiration to try harder. I still think it's important to remove the children from this situation, to have that choice. Can you help protect our children, or do you need to leave, or should we leave so that we can protect our children? Too many of us become addicted because one of our parents, if not both of our parents, were addicted. And so the cycle of suffering is repeated. Or the children grow up with many other problems. They may not have the addiction, but they may develop other negative coping mechanisms. And so we need to protect the children. And I must say that we need a lot of help all around us. But in the end, it is ourselves who have to get up and who have to do our best to heal and transform ourselves. We have to face ourselves, to face our suffering, and to seek a way out for ourselves. Otherwise, our loved ones try so hard, but they have their own limitation. They're trying to survive. So in the end, they may get too frustrated. They may speak unskillfully out of frustration and pain, or they may walk away from us. So we have to be the ones who stick with ourselves through the thick and the thin, and try to get up and find help for ourselves. And for those of us family members, we understand that we can only help so much. We only can be responsible so much. We cannot change this person if this person does not want to change, does not yet see their problem, or does not have enough inner strength to do this. So what we can help actually is to give that love, that loving speech and deep listening, to say, I know you are suffering so much, and I'm so sorry to see you suffer. I'm so sorry I cannot help you, but I love you. And I wish you find a way out. That actually may help save the person, your love. I have a young brother who's 3.5 years younger than me. We grew up together. We came to the US together. I suffered depression. He suffered depression. He was suicidal. I was suicidal too. But I thought of my brother. And I didn't want to do anything to my life that would cause him to just be left alone in this world. And you know, he did the same thing for me too. He told me there were times when he had the gun by his temple. But he thought of me. He didn't want to leave me all alone in this world because our parents had already passed away. So he actually saved himself for me. Sometimes, like, we cannot save ourselves because of the suffering is too deep or the habit is too deep. But we can save ourselves for those we love. And sometimes it works. And my brother, I spent a lot of money on him. When I was in college, at some point I actually calculated I spent more than $50,000 on him. That was 20-something years ago, and I was only a college student. And this money I had was just from my scholarships and work, and simple lifestyle. I didn't spend money on anything, but on my brother mainly. But I also learned not to say harsh things to him. I never said, I give you all this money. No, I didn't. I just cried and I told him, I just want you to be happy, honey. I just want you to be safe. I wrote so many poems about his death because I thought one day I would just find out he died, in a motorcycle accident at a party, or just from suicide, But I loved him so much. I kept telling him, all I wanted was for him to be safe and to be happy. And I stuck with him all these years. I didn't expect him to go to college like me, to be a doctor like me. I just wanted him to be safe and to be happy. And he's okay now. He works so hard. It breaks my heart sometimes to see how hard he works because he didn't have a degree, an education, so he does manual labor. He does like construction work and he builds things, but he's very creative. He has an incredible mind. He thinks of something, he designs something, and he makes it. And I'm just proud of him. And more than anything, I'm so happy because he's safe. And now, he takes good care of his daughter. He's there for his wife, for his family. He's still alive. And that's my greatest happiness. And you can also do the same thing for yourselves and for your loved ones too. Just give them your love the most you can. And give that love to yourself and get up and do the best you can. And that's all you can ask for yourself. Just do the best you can, my dear. And you are enough. Okay? You are more than enough.
Thank you so much, dear sister, for being there for yourself, for your brother, and for my father, who is not alive anymore, but there's many people like my father out there who will be comforted and helped by your sharing today.